The courtroom was packed, cameras flashing, reporters scribbling, the world holding its breath. At the center sat a billionaire, trembling as his empire, his reputation, his freedom all slipped through his fingers. And then, the unthinkable. His lawyer, the man who paid millions to save him, slammed his briefcase shut and walked out. Gasps filled the air. The defense was over, or so it seemed. From the back of the room, a quiet figure stepped forward. A janitor. Black, overlooked, invisible. And with a voice trembling but unyielding, he declared the words that silenced the room. "I will defend him. But why risk everything? For a man who had never even seen him?" The billionaire was a giant of industry. Skyscrapers bore his name, presidents shook his hand, and kings sought his company. But power attracts enemies. And soon, accusations piled higher than his towers. Fraud, corruption, betrayal. The trial became a national obsession. Outside, crowds roared for justice. Inside, the billionaire leaned on his star attorney. Tailored suits, perfect smiles, the best money could buy, but cracks showed. This lawyer wasn't fighting for truth, he was fighting for his paycheck. And when the tide turned, when evidence mounted and the jury leaned forward, the mask slipped. Courage failed. On live television, before the nation, he walked out. Leaving his client to sink, the billionaire slumped, broken. His enemies smirked, tasting victory. The judge lifted his gavel, ready to proceed. Then, an unexpected sound. The squeak of worn shoes across polished marble. Heads turned. A janitor, a black man in a faded uniform, mop in hand, walked forward. Most dismissed him instantly. What could a janitor know of law? But those who knew him, rare as they were, understood. This man carried more than cleaning supplies. He carried something missing from that courtroom. Sharp eyes, a restless mind, and courage born from years of being invisible. The question was, would the system even let him try? Disbelief crackled through the room. Laughter from the prosecution. A judge's raised brow. A janitor defending a billionaire? Ridiculous, but he did not flinch. He explained, calm but firm. While others saw him mopping floors, he spent nights hunched over law books thrown out as trash. He studied not for power, but for dignity. The judge hesitated. To allow this was dangerous, almost laughable. Yet the billionaire, humiliated and desperate, whispered the only answer possible. Yes, permission granted. The room shifted. This was no longer billionaire versus state. It was janitor versus the machine. The prosecution struck fast, drowning him in technicalities, procedures, and rules meant to crush. But he had something sharper, focus. Where others relied on prestige, he relied on truth. He spotted contradictions others ignored, overlooked details hidden in plain sight. And he wasn't just defending a man. With each objection, each question, he carried the weight of history. Every black man mocked, dismissed, underestimated. His voice shook, but it cut like a blade. Reporters stopped smirking. They scribbled headlines instead. The gallery leaned forward. Even the billionaire, once blind to him, now sat in awe. But the fight was brutal. The prosecution mocked him as unqualified, a fool with a mop. The trial stretched on. Days bled together. Each night he dragged himself home, hands raw from mops and heavy books. Exhaustion threatened to swallow him, but every morning he returned sharper, stronger, more relentless. And slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. Yet the question loomed, could determination alone overcome a system designed to break men like him? The final day, the air was electric, heavy with expectation. The prosecution thundered, painting the billionaire as a monster of greed. Their voices boomed, papers waved, fingers jabbed. Then, the janitor rose. Not polished, not rehearsed. Just steady, fierce. He spoke of the cracks in their case, the contradictions they hoped no one noticed. He didn't charm. He didn't flatter. He cut to the bone with truth, and then he dropped the bomb. A document, overlooked by the original lawyer, that proved a witness had lied under oath. The courtroom erupted. The prosecution stuttered. The judge demanded silence. This was no lucky janitor. This was a man who had studied in shadows, preparing for a day no one imagined. Thread by thread, he unraveled the lies. Each word reshaped the room. No longer invisible, he stood not with a mop, but with justice in his hands. When the jury filed back, the verdict stunned the nation. Not guilty. The billionaire collapsed, tears spilling. The prosecution sat hollow, defeated. And the janitor? He bowed his head, not in pride, but in quiet, unshakable dignity. The trial ended, but its echo thundered far beyond that courtroom. Headlines screamed, "Black janitor saves a billionaire in court." Some hailed him a hero. Others sneered, calling it luck. But those who looked closer saw the truth. This was no accident. The billionaire, overwhelmed, offered riches, money, mansions, lifelong loyalty. But the janitor declined. His answer was simple. "I didn't do it for wealth. I did it because it was right." For him, it was never about saving a billionaire. It was about proving that justice doesn't wear Armani. That courage can rise from the lowest floor and shake the highest ceiling. Not everyone celebrated. Whispers spread. Slurs hissed. Some could not accept that a black janitor outwitted trained lawyers. But those voices only revealed the very injustice his victory exposed. Greatness ignored because of skin, uniform, or station. He returned to his work, mop in hand, but no longer invisible. Heads nodded. Strangers paused. Respect followed where silence once lived, and the billionaire, richer than ever, carried something new: humility. For the first time, he saw that true power isn't in towers, titles, or money. It is in courage, loyalty, and the will to stand when others walk away. The janitor's story spread, not as a tale of money or courtroom drama, but as a reminder etched deep into the nation's memory. Sometimes, justice doesn't wear a suit. Sometimes, justice carries a mop. So ask yourself, if you saw injustice unfold before you, would you risk everything to stand up, even when the world told you to stay silent?